Denmark resident, clean water advocate, author, and healthcare advocate Deanna Miller-Berry is running for mayor of Denmark. Today, I talk exclusively with her for this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and like Quintin's Close-Ups on Facebook. Deanna Miller-Berry, welcome to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thank you for having me. I'm so glad to be here.
Oh, you're very welcome. I understand that you are a resident of Denmark, South Carolina. You are a national healthcare advocate, a national environmental activist, an author, and a founder of several nonprofit organizations, as well as being a wife and obviously a community leader. And more importantly, right now, you are a mayoral candidate for the city of Denmark.
Yes, I am. Yes, as if I didn't have enough hats to already wear.
Who else is Deanna Miller-Berry these days?
Well, I'm just your average homegirl. When I talk to folks and I tell folks, I'm very relatable. A lot of the challenges most all of our constituents have been facing, I too have faced. So just being that homegirl who just loves people, loves helping people. I've been that way my whole life. And the older I got, the more I want to help more people. So that's Deanna. I love arts. I love music. And I love to fight for justice.
As a matter of fact, you talk about the people. You said this quote on Facebook: "I'm a candidate that isn't afraid to put in the work. Sleeves are rolled up and win this election for the people." What work have you put in thus far for the people?
Well, in regards to healthcare, it started with healthcare. Okay. My daughter was terminally ill, and doctors gave her up at MUSC, said there was nothing else they could do for her. Basically, take her home and make her comfortable. I will never forget that drive coming home from the hospital that night. But instead of wallowing in my sorrow and tears or self-pity, I rose above and decided to help other families, because while we were going through it, we didn't have the support that most other people have. And when I'm talking about support, I'm not talking about love from your family or anything like that. I'm talking about access to resources, access to individuals who were dealing with situations that my daughter was going through. So I created my own programs to help families receive life-saving surgeries and treatments for their children who were either terminally ill or facing life-saving issues. And then on top of that, guess what? Found out that there's a water crisis in the community that I grew to love. And that catapulted me to the next level. And I've been fighting for a number of different issues in addition to the two I just mentioned.
And I'm going to get to the water crisis in just a second, but let me go to this. What else you actually said on Facebook? You said this too, quote, "The old Denmark is no more. People are ready for a change." What's your plan for a new Denmark?
My plan for a new Denmark is to give the people what they want. Like the old song, give the people what they want. That's pretty much what it is. And not only what they want, but what they need. Because we have to understand that everything we want is not necessarily what we need. So being able to kind of work with the community and let them know the differences between wants versus needs of the city to help us build and revitalize our economic structure here. So a new Denmark, what will that look like? First of all, an administration that has a 100% transparency. I've been open with the public and our constituents from the day I put boots on the ground. One of my good friends yesterday, she said, "Deanna," she said, "I don't have boots, but I got Chuck Taylors, so I could put my Chuck Taylors on the ground." So, that's what we're doing, getting out there in the community, educating the community on, what resources look like, because it's been such a scarcity for so long. Revitalizing our business district, creating departments that will help make sure that funding is secured and diverted into our city and into the proper department, like creating a new office for a police commissioner, an arts director, so that we can protect the arts here in our community. Creating citizen-led based organizations that will help keep the city accountable, and going after the funding that the city so needs versus taxing the people. So that's what a new Denmark would look like. More things to do for our young people. Um, Community centers. It's just so much that we are going to be able to do with the help of the people once they elect me into office.
And I'm going to get back to all that, including the Arts Commission, the commissioner, and all that, in just a few minutes, because I have a lot of questions about that. But let me go to what else you said. You said this quote: "Residents in Denmark are tired of a good old boy network making decisions that do not, move the city forward." That is, what decisions lately have they been able to make?
None. Decisions that they make doesn't benefit the people. They make decisions in private conversations and private meetings, special so-called meetings, where they raise rates on water rates for residents and make decisions that tax the people. But nothing really have they done. The Good Old Boy Network here in our community, a lot of folks around here refer to the Good Old Boy Network as a new form of mafia. I've heard plenty of residents use that term as well, too. So you got people who are born and raised right here in Denmark and creating these acts of injustice and neglect to the people they grew up with. So when you have a Good Old Boy Network, they only look out for the establishment and not the people.
What are those acts of injustice that you heard of and actually seen?
Acts of injustice, number one, allowing the state to use a non-EPA approved pesticide into the city's public drinking water, and then decide to continuously use it with the false pretense to mislead the people, just because it eradicates the brown water, and then make profit off the people by raising the rates on the water. So folks are losing their homes, they're losing their properties, they're having to move in with residents or move in with family members just to be able to make ends meet. And then failing to work with other parts of the local government. So it's not just Denmark. Denmark has a responsibility to work and partner with the county and form a fusion with all the other cities and towns that are based in this county. I mean, that's something that has not been happening. So there's clearly a disconnect, and it's time to reconnect. Denmark is known for its transportation hubs. It's at one point, it was known to be a connector because it's like in the middle of everywhere, but in the middle of nowhere. So you got an hour from each major city. So it's time to connect the dots, connect the cities, build relationships that's not going to only benefit us here in Denmark, but us as a county as a whole, because we're struggling.
Now, what is the current water rate in Denmark?
Well, the current water rate, okay, so if you go into City Hall, they're going to give you a piece of paper. It's going to tell you that the water rate is the exact same rate that's on a national level, right? The problem comes into the gallon usages. Once you reach a certain capacity and you exceed that gallon usage, right? That's where the rates start to increase. Last summer, the city of Denmark had a special private meeting where they decided in the middle of a pandemic to be the first city in South Carolina to increase their water rates during a pandemic. And they increased it by a sum of 30%.
Now, what was that water rate prior to them actually raising that?
The water rates were, now, Quintin, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't have the paper in front of me, so I don't want to throw numbers out.
Sure, okay. I'm
not that kind of leader, all right? But I haven't looked at the rates in quite a while because I've just been busy on this campaign trail. But it's like per 1,000 gallons. There's a basic minimum rate that residents are charged, okay? And that basic is just general in any city, town, municipality throughout the state. But right now, folks are dealing with being charged for 49,000 gallons of water. I mean, my water bill is $3,000 and I'm barely home.
Now, let me ask you this. Who else was actually involved with this private meeting?
It was just the mayor and council members.
Okay, and I know exactly that you wanted to and as far as on your campaign platform, you said that you want to update the pipes for clean and sustainable water. What are the standards does Denmark actually have as far as water supply?
We have no water treatment plant on 100-year-old infrastructure that has been neglected, abused, and raped. That's the word that I'm using, because they forced a non-EPA approved pesticide into the city's public drinking water through the Cox Mill. Now, the person who injected this did not have certifications or training. It was just somebody just like me and you, okay, who walks up and injects this chemical in unmeasured, undocumented amounts. So you've got 10 years of residue that's built up in our city's public drinking water system that needs to be addressed. So in addition to not having a water treatment plant, there has been nothing made available to residents of Denmark through the city or through the state to be able to help individuals understand, not only what has happened, but what to expect going forward, especially when it comes to their bodies.
Now, obviously, with this particular guy who evidently came up out of nowhere in some people's mind, was city council actually notified about this guy?
This guy who?
You just mentioned.
Oh, you're talking about the guy who injected the
right.
chemical? Absolutely.
Okay,
they knew.
Okay.
Matter of fact, he's listed on the recent December 2020 sanitation survey as being one of the city public works workers who are working directly with the public works director. How did this man even come back to the city to be able to do basically or practice those same measures? And since he's been back, we're mysteriously passing now. So we went from passing satisfactory for years because they had the halo sand, right? Okay. To in 2018, there was a cease and desist order. Okay. So they couldn't use it anymore. Right after, shortly after the cease and desist order for halo sand was done, City of Denmark went from satisfactory to needs improvement to unsatisfactory, leading all the way up to December 2nd, 2020. So this is the first satisfactory rating the city has gotten since we've brought this to light. And they have done nothing to show or to prove what they have done to correct those deficiencies so that it could put the public's mind at ease.
Now, when exactly did they needed those needs for those improvements for the water system? When was that prior to December 2020?
So every single time they were reported from the time the cease and desist order was established, okay, up until then. So from 2018 up until December 2020, they were failing miserably. And now all of a sudden they're passing. You want to know whose responsibility that falls upon? It falls upon the responsibility of the mayor, because it's the office of the mayor that has the power to make sure that we're hiring the right qualified individuals to be able to work on such a delicate infrastructure system.
Did anybody from the public get a copy of the RFP that was sent out as far as the hiring of this particular guy?
The only public notices that was provided was that in the newspaper. Okay. So, yes. And
this might be another, redundant question, but what components of the water system challenges the water distribution system in Denmark?
So the challenges they face is just basically the infrastructure. So we have, and with our water system, we have groundwater. So the water that comes out of the ground is God-given good water. I mean, you could go there, you can collect directly from there, and the water is going to be great coming from the ground. The problem is when it hits the infrastructure. You've got 100-year-old outdated infrastructure that has so many contaminants and toxins that are inside our water system. Asbestos, gasoline, MTBE. MTBE is like formaldehyde in the human body. We were educated on this when we had a toxicologist come to City of Denmark to help explain to residents the importance of, reading and requesting documents so that they could, learn for themselves. Because no one is out there educating or caring to educate the public on the ins and outs of what's happening with our water infrastructure until I came about and my team. So it wasn't just me, it was my team, resources that I managed to pull, relationships I've managed to cultivate, finding the right people who know the answers about things that I have no knowledge of, and us coming together to be able to decide, hey, look, no one's going to do it, so we have to do it. It's our responsibility as public servants.
Did anybody within the city of Denmark hire an outside toxicologist to look at, what could have happened between the time that they needed improvements in the city of Denmark to the time that all of a sudden it's satisfactory?
Quintin, one thing I want people to understand is the office of mayor. Exactly what does that mean and what type of power that position has? The answer to your question, no. The mayor had full capability to call in toxicologists, epidemiologists.
Right.
I mean, here in Bamberg County, we rank the highest, we rank 2 times the highest infant mortality rates in the state. But yet, DHEC hosts their luncheon to celebrate the reduction of infant mortality rates, but nobody talks about Bamberg County. Nobody talks about why our babies are dying here. So in addition to that, we have some of the highest rates of cancer and kidney-related illnesses, and no one has thought to even say, hey, look, now that we know, let's call in the experts. It's been more so of a cover-up. The mayor has done an extremely wonderful job at covering up and ceasing us and stopping us from getting true answers. So the only individual who has ever called any toxicologist, epidemiologist, scientist, experts on any level pertaining to water was me.
Now, let me ask you this. With the infant mortality rates, what were those rates back in 2018 versus now?
Okay, I don't have those stats in front of me at this moment, but we ranked, when I checked in 2018, we were 2 times higher than the state's average. 2 times. And that information was brought to me by the scientists. So when they brought it to my attention, they said, hey, do you ever think to wonder why children in your area are dying? And then when we look at the demographic of the age groups of these children, let's do this. These children die in their sleep, and they're between the ages of 9 and 13. 10 years ago, these children were babies. Now, am I saying that this is why our children died? No, not saying that it's because of the water, but isn't it a reason to wonder and to find out exactly how does this all relate? Because from day one of me bringing this issue about, even when I spoke with the mayor, because I had a one-on-one with the mayor when I first ran in 2017, I said, hey, look, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just a mom. My daughter's dying. I came here so my daughter could die comfortably. And for some reason, residents are coming to tell me this. It was his response that made me say, all right, girl, you need to learn everything you can, get every training that you can get, and so that you can help these folks out here in Denmark, because people feel like they can just do what they want to the residents of Denmark here.
And what type of training did you get at that particular time?
So what I did is I made sure that I was everywhere. So I was that person who showed up to every meeting, every conference, every convention, on a state and a local level, to where people began to say, hey, who are you? Like, you're here all the time. What are you here for? So I was that person who would just come and watch and observe. And in doing so, became comfortable enough to start networking and talking with folks, letting people know what we were dealing with in the city and also what I was dealing with personally. Now, Quintin, you'll be the first person I'll tell this part to. What most people don't understand is my husband has stage 3 kidney failure on top of every single thing else I've been dealing with. There's a whole lot of other things that I could be doing right now that could help preserve my peace, and being able to help with my family. But I'm built for this. I'm built for this type of weight. Okay. So making sure that I got out there. I started taking classes, free classes that was offered. I started volunteering in capacities, learning, taking pieces and using it to apply, because my community is different from the communities that I was volunteering and helping in. So it was like almost eat the meat, throw the bone away type thing. And then now I'm a sister of Emerge.
Right. So,
just taking advantage of those opportunities to learn as much as I can to be able to help my community thrive. So that's what that looks like.
Now, I know you want to update the pipes for clean and sustainable water, but will you build a new water system with the latest technology?
Absolutely. We want to be innovative in what we're doing, and we want to be able to keep up with the 21st century. So with that being said, we need that. But I understand that funding can be challenging, and being able to access that funding can be challenging. So it will be my job as mayor to go after the state and federal government to be able to make sure that we access that funding and find out what we have to do to access it. The main priority, it's going to be very, very costly to completely update the every single water pipe or water system, water infrastructure in the city. We need to first start with getting a water treatment plant. That's what we need to first start with. Okay. A water treatment plant, about $3 million to be able to at least be able to help get our water where it needs to be. It's the first step. There has to be phases in all projects that you work on. So phase 1 would be secure the water treatment plant. Phase 2 would be replacing all pipes with the latest technology.
And what bids would you advertise to rehabilitate the 2 aging water tanks in Denmark?
Ask me that again, I'm sorry.
What bids would you advertise to rehabilitate the 2 aging water tanks in Denmark?
We would do everything we can to make sure that that we just look. We need to. Everything about our public water system needs a total overhaul. The only way businesses are going to come, industry is going to come to where our economy can be sustained, is we have to make sure that all bids and everything that we do to make sure that we, number one, not only save money, but we don't want to save money by costing lives. Okay. So making sure that we do everything we can to make sure that we choose the right individuals who are qualified to be able to do what we need, even if it means paying a little bit more money.
And what type of funding would you ask for from the South Carolina Drinking Water's state revolving fund?
We're going to ask for every fund. See, that's the thing. You got to think about how many cities, how many towns in South Carolina that have a water issue. Places like Jenkinsville,
right.
Okay? Places like Allendale,
right.
All right? So there are so many of us. Denmark is not the only one. But the problem is we don't know what's available to us because it's never been offered. Okay? So my job as mayor would be to work with legislator, okay? Find out what's in that fund that we could be able to access and be able to use, and be able to use to update our infrastructure and our systems. That's the first thing I would do.
And you talk about the type of individuals that you'll have to find. Have you located those thus far?
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's a part of the networking. I've been building this. I've been building on this for 2 years, Quintin. Okay. I didn't just wake up and decide I want to run for mayor again. Oh, I'm going to run for mayor because people asked me to run. No, you have to have a plan, a vision, and you have to have the right people to help execute that vision and execute that plan. So I've got a very diverse group of individuals who are both Republicans and Democrats who are ready to help make Denmark be the catalyst or the test pilot for the types of programs that I've been screaming about that rural America and rural South Carolina needs. So we get enough of us to gather our voices together, we'll definitely start seeing some changes here in rural South Carolina.
Now, would you also replace the water mains in Denmark?
Absolutely. Everything that needs to be replaced. Okay. So that would mean bringing in our experts, because right now the residents do not trust DHEC. It's sad and it's unfortunate of the distrust between citizens and the individuals they put their trust in to elect, that have the power to do these things and have had it for so long. Like, these are things that are not just coming available. These are resources that have always been out there. And just being able to just, do what we have to do to build our city, man.
And what current wells have been abandoned in your mind?
All of them.
What top water system locations in Denmark where you would include automatic flushing devices?
There are key points. There are connecting points, key points throughout the city that we have identified with our scientists. But you have to understand a lot of the things that we need to do as far as identifying more. The mayor has prohibited us from conducting any further testing of our own. So he's violated our civil rights. He's violated our rights as people, from prohibiting us from bringing our expert in. We have a right to bring our own independent third party to come in because of that distrust I spoke about earlier, to be able to say, okay, bring your expert in. There's no cost to the city, the state, or the people. Okay, it's being funded by the individuals we're bringing in, but you're telling us no, because every single time our experts come in to this city, we find a problem more worse than the other. Like what made the mayor shut us down. You want to know what it was, Quintin? Our experts are Dr. Mark Edwards from Virginia Tech University.
Right.
Okay, he uncovered Flint, Michigan's water crisis. When he and his team came down here and tested several different sites, okay, he found that we have a potential illegal dumping site of raw sewage that's flowing into a tributary that flows into Little Sakahatchee River. Now, Dr. Edwards has already tested every single one of these sites. And out of all of the information that we put out to the public, DHEC nor the city of Denmark has been able to challenge or contest. And the problem that I have is the mayor has the right to do something. He can do something about it, and he hasn't.
Now, have you been able to locate that particular alleged dumping site?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I can walk out there to it right now. And I'm a country girl, so I don't mind walking through the deep woods. You got to walk deep in the woods to get to this site.
And how long has that site been sitting there?
Decades.
Okay. Have you made a complaint to the Attorney General's office or the Department of Justice about this?
We have not directly reached out to both of those offices. We've secured attorneys to help us in those legalities. So our attorneys are in the process of making sure that we reach out to the Attorney General. But what I want to do is, before we start doing all of that, I'm running for office. I'm hoping the people elect me into office so that we can avoid having to do that. Because being the mayor, I would make those decisions to say, let's bring back in the experts, let's finish the diagnosis, give the people what they need, which is answers, and then work towards securing the funding.
And with that site, how much is that costing the average taxpayer in Denmark?
So that particular site is not in city limits.
Okay.
And I won't go any further as far as like the details of the location, because there are some folks who may watch this who may say, I think I know what she's talking about. But the site is not in city limits. It's right outside of city limits. So it doesn't cost taxpayers anything. It's owned by the city. The site is owned by the city.
And I hope to get the mayor of Denmark on to get his side of the story about this. But let me move on to economic opportunities, because you said you want to help create economic opportunities in connecting obviously the HBCUs to those opportunities. How will you maintain the relationships with existing businesses in Denmark?
For number one, we're going to maintain relationships with those businesses. Number one, by letting them know that the city is there as a resource to their business. Okay. So as much as we're seeking resources, we want to be a resource for businesses, schools, our constituents, and all those who travel through our city. It's very important that we work with the local HBCUs, because we house two of them, Voorhees College and Denmark Technical College. I'm so proud of those colleges. They offer so much, and we as a city should be working towards a partnership to be able to help offer just as much back to them. Offer like externship programs that lead to employment, especially at Denmark Technical College, where they have those skills, those trade, because Denmark Tech was once known as a trade school, right. But they still offer a lot of those trades that could be used here in the city. So that's how I plan to strengthen the relationship with the businesses and also with the HBCUs.
How would you help encourage growth and job creation by recruiting new ones to Denmark?
Well, first of all, we have to work on this infrastructure for the water. Okay. Our infrastructure has to be able to withstand what business or industry development will come to the city. Okay. So once we do that, I'm currently working with individuals who are helping to create an economic development plan specifically for the city of Denmark. That will also include an energy plan, a UBI, because I'm a mayor. I would be a mayor for guaranteed income. So developing a UBI plan and other innovative plans to be able to help generate revenue here in our city, and also bring business and bring tourists, people to come see our city. I mean, we have a lot of great relics here in the city that folks would love to come to see, like the antique shops and the Jim Harrison Art Gallery, just a few to name. But that's what I would do to help galvanize the support to help rebuild our economic development.
And I'm going to get to the UBI in just 30 seconds. But let me ask you this. How will you expand and diversify your tax base?
Well, I will expand and diversify my tax base based on what we put in our economic development plan. We want to be able to get our tax base to a point where we could compete with other cities and other towns who have similar or the same types of tax base. Like when I talked about the infrastructure earlier, it's not just only water that we need to, or the water infrastructure that we need. We need to build better roads to be able to handle like the 18-wheeler and the heavy traffic volume that'll be coming through the city. So that's what I would do with that.
Now, let me jump into what you said. Obviously, you said that you want to have guaranteed income for every resident of Denmark. How much should that income be?
$500. Well, how much should it be? That's what you asked me.
Yes, ma'am.
But it should be $1,000 a month, because there are some cities across the country who are doing that. But unfortunately, we're not built like that. So ours would be $500 for 100 families, 100 households, to receive $500 for a period of 1 year. And we have South Carolina State Representative Dr. Jermaine Johnson,
right,
who is working on developing that UBI plan for us. So, like I said, I have to be the mayor before we start going into the bones or the structure of what that would look like. Because although I've been accepted, I'm not a mayor yet until the people elect me.
Well, let me ask you this: who will actually pay for this income?
Okay, I'm so glad that you asked that question. So, this all of the funding is based off funding from grants, philanthropy. There are a number of different individuals who have gotten together to help our economic development nationwide, period. So the money doesn't come from taxpayers, so nobody has to pay for this. States, towns doesn't have to pay for it, but there is some level of fundraising that we would have to do as a city to help offset those costs. So Mayors for Guaranteed Income, they start you out with $100,000 to be able to start the program, right? But there are a number of different things that you have to do to be able to keep that program going and be able to expand it to where I'm not only helping 100 families, maybe in a year I can extend that to maybe 200 families based on us meeting the requirements of Mayors for Guaranteed Income. So that's how it's funded, and that's how it gets started in communities like ours.
And what are those requirements?
The requirements is I have to be mayor, or a mayor, any mayor. Like if there's a mayor watching your show right now, Quintin, and they are a mayor for Guaranteed Income, they should get involved. They should reach out and they should create a plan like this for their constituents. It is a resource that has been available, and it is available to people.
Now, let me stay on what you just said. Will this income actually replace any existing programs?
No. I'm glad you asked that question, Quintin, because I've been getting that question a lot offline. So this would be a great time for me to help folks. So when we get this UBI plan approved after being elected, it will not affect those who are on public assistance. It will not affect anyone who's like receiving Social Security or food stamps or anything, because this is guaranteed income. It's not free money. It's guaranteed income. It's meant to help rebuild the economy with hopes that with this additional income, those who may have wanted to like start their own businesses could be able to have the funding that they need to be able to start their businesses. It's meant to grow the economy, not so folks can just get money and sit home and do nothing with it. So it doesn't replace your income, and it doesn't harm anything that you have or the families have going on.
And this might be a redundant question because I think you just answered it, but will this income increase labor market participation?
Absolutely.
Will this guaranteed income decrease labor supply?
No.
Would this income double the city's tax revenue?
Yes.
Would you create a pilot guaranteed income program first?
Yes.
And let me ask you this. You talked earlier, obviously, about the arts and obviously hiring an arts commissioner. Let me ask you this. Let me get to it, actually, because, let me go to this first, because you also said that you want to bring a travel center and extending broadband that will include a hotel and bring back the mom and pop businesses that have been shut down due to the economy crisis and the lack of leadership. I know you want to bring a travel center to Denmark, but who will maintain that?
We're going to hire folks right from our area. I mean, so you got to think about why Denmark was established because it was a great place for the railroads, buses.
Yeah.
I remember friends of mine when I was in school who was excited to come to Denmark because Denmark Tech was the school to go to. It was if you wasn't going to Denmark Tech or DeVry, you wasn't anybody from our area. So it's like, it was the place where when we graduated, we came here to catch the bus for those of us who were going into the military.
Right.
So, it was known for transportation. And it's during the time when transportation was alive in the city. That's when the city was booming. That's when businesses were downtown. A lot of folks talk about the city trends. A lot of folks around here miss the city trends. Okay, but that travel is so important. We have because of broadband, we cannot get Uber, Lyft, or any of those other taxi or like travel accommodations where you can be transported from one area of the city to the next, because our area can't withstand the broadband. The broadband isn't strong enough to have those types of programs. So we don't have them. So if you're not able to walk, or you don't have somebody to take you somewhere, then it's hard for you to get around. And especially with COVID makes it that much more challenging. So manning the travel center, we would secure the funding to make sure that we bring back. Now, this is something that's going to happen over time. It's not something that's going to happen overnight. But we would secure the funding, make sure that we do what we need to do to be able to expand Amtrak to where they're not just stopping through one time in the middle of the night, but maybe, making multiple stops so that folks who have layovers and things like that can eat at our eateries. That's going to build our business area too as well. So those are some of the things that I want to do. And the people who are going to man it is the people who live right around here.
Well, let me ask you this. Will the travel center also include a gas station, a convenience station, a restaurant, and maybe overnight parking lots for semi-trucks?
Yes, sir.
Okay. How will the traffic center capture the existing truck traffic in that particular area?
Oh, it's going to look, I talk to truckers all the time that come through the city. I do. And I know a lot of truckers who live in the city. My husband was a truck driver. So the hardest thing to do is to travel such a long distance in between having gas stations that could provide access to be able for them to stop, take a shower, eat, relax, and just be comfortable. So it's definitely a need, and it's definitely something that truck drivers would be very, 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 very happy for.
How many jobs do you hope to create with this particular travel center?
I hope to create at least 200 jobs, because that travel center, with the vision that we have in mind, we would want to put like a mechanic shop there too as well, okay, for the truck drivers, so that if they're experiencing mechanical issues, they can get their vehicle service, their truck service.
And how much money will this travel center generate as far as the city's sales tax revenue?
Okay, now that is a part of the economic development plan that we are currently in the process of finding out what that cost would look like. But as soon as we find out what that cost is, we will make it available to the public.
How will you provide infrastructure cash incentive grant funds for this travel center?
I'm sorry, the connection went out.
Yeah, how will you provide infrastructure cash incentive grant funds for this particular travel center?
We're going to be very creative. Like I said, if I tell you what we've been talking about, that's not the finale, because we're in the process of trying to find so many different things that could be able to help with those cash incentives with the travel center. But like I said, Quintin, I just have a full team of folks who are working on plans. And when it just so happens we're doing this interview right before we have our meetings. So if you and I had this interview next week, Tuesday, I would be able to, let you know all of that right now. But just know that this is a work in progress, and the closer we get to election, and the morale is building, and folks are clearly showing here in Denmark that they are ready for a new Denmark. I'm doing my best to hurry and, get that stuff out so we can get it to the public. So
where exactly in Denmark will this travel center be?
Now, there are two possible locations that we are looking at, but nothing is set in stone, but they would be prime spots right on one location is on 321, right in the city. The other location is on 78, Highway 78. So it's at it's a great cost connector that connects to Highway 70. So, and there's also a potential third site off of Highway 70. Now that location, I've been talking with the owner of that property, and when I told him the idea for the travel center, he said, look, I'll pretty much almost give that land to y'all. I just want to see something done like that in Denmark. So, like I said, there's 2 to 3 locations that we're currently looking at right now.
And I should have asked you this earlier, but should the state of South Carolina make internet a utility?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, we have to keep up with the time. Most of our folks who live here in the city may not be able to see any of the content that we put on social media because they don't have access to broadband. So if we make it a utility, a necessity for folks, people will be able to have access to being able to see not just what's happening around them, but what's happening around the country, and be able to keep up with the evolving times and technology.
Now, where exactly should fiber lines be placed in Denmark and the rest of Brandenburg County?
Okay, so fiber, I'm so glad that you asked. I was just on a broadband call the other day. We were talking about the fiber lines because we had some county council individuals who were on there, along with our Keep Bamberg County Beautiful director. She was on that call too as well. So we were talking about where they have identified where those fiber lines need to be placed. Okay, so they'll be placed throughout the city. They have been identified. I do know that the county is working on identifying those fiber lines, but I've been kept in the loop, and I'm just waiting to find out exactly where those lines would be.
And let me get back to the art commissioner's plan that you have in place. I got mixed up there, but you said obviously some of the ideas include a new art commissioner. How would you put that how do you put the Denmark's art community in context right now?
They are doing the best that they can with the resources that they have. It would be great to, hold on one second, okay? Hold on one second, Quintin, I'm so sorry. Okay, so sorry, but we need to do more when it comes to the arts. Like we have an organization called BC Crawl. I love that organization. I'm so sorry. You saw my husband's hand just now. I was trying to be discreet with it.
It's okay.
Me for something.
Yeah.
That's a part of this new technology, new interviewing. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
But BC Crawl, they do an amazing job trying to educate the community on the importance of the arts by always hosting events and just doing things to channel the community and get the community involved. But there's still so much we can do because we have like the Dane Theater. Right. The Dane Theater in itself is historic, but in its own. I mean, if you walk into have you ever walked into the Dane Theater?
Not yet.
Quintin, you should visit Denmark and let me give you a tour of the Dane Theater. Everything is pretty much still preserved. When you walk in, they still have the entrance with the sign that says Negroes this way, where you go up a very narrow flight of stairs. And when you get to the top, you have the most uncomfortable seats you could ever sit in your life. But then when you go into the theater, it's like, whoa. So just being able to preserve the arts, the historic values here in Denmark, and be able to, capitalize on that to bring tourists, to bring back the arts, to bring back live shows, to where folks would be proud to come and say, hey, we got the Dane Theater right here in Denmark. Come check us out.
And do you have a 10-year master plan for the arts in Denmark?
I don't have a 10-year, but I have a 5-year. What
is that 5-year?
That 5-year is to create a board of directors for the Dane Theater. And in doing so, we would secure that board would be responsible for securing grants and funding to revitalize the historic value, make it look great, but still historic. Because we love our small town. We're not trying to turn our small town into a metropolis, okay? But we want it to be beautified. So working with the beautification of our city and making walkways, trailways, interesting to be able to, for folks to be able to enjoy. adding more to the arts and using both HBCUs to help us do that, because they have students who are brilliant and educators who are masters. Okay, so we would gather our collective minds to find out how we can use that, because that can also be a great gateway. If our city is beautiful and our city is attractive and our city has things to provide to folks, guess what that's going to do? It's going to help with enrollment to those colleges too as well. So just building that bridge over these next 5 years to make our city artistically beautiful.
And how would you achieve equity, inclusion, and access for arts, culture, and creative endeavors in Denmark?
Oh, by definitely. I'm so glad you asked me that question. I would include it by just being diverse. Like I use this word a lot during this interview: innovative, creative, open, and also just being able to make sure to include the public and the residents in on all decisions when it comes to what our city would look like. I mean, we can't do it alone. I can't do it alone. So we have to be unified, and we have to work towards making sure we secure the funding to make sure that this is something that we can definitely do.
And how do you hope the new arts commissioner will facilitate opportunities for innovation and collaboration?
Oh, my hope for the new arts commissioner would be to wow residents of Denmark in a sense of bringing those innovative ideas, those creative ideas back to the city, showing a new form of arts, because we've been restricted to a certain type of arts. And the arts is more than just music, drawing, and theater. There's an art to organizing. There's an art to everything that you do. So much so to where it's almost broken down to a science. So the arts commissioner is somebody who I would just be excited to see what creative juices would flow from their mind to be able to help our city grow.
And what key factors would you look for in order to have that ideal art commissioner?
Someone who has a love for the arts, someone who has a passion. I'm passion driven on everything that I do. So the people that I choose to work with, there's a certain level of passion that I look for when I'm searching for individuals. So that's what I would look for.
Now, let me ask you quickly. I know you have to run, but let me ask you this. As far as obviously COVID and businesses, how many businesses in Denmark have actually closed due to COVID?
Thanks be unto God. From what I know, none.
Okay.
They managed to maintain, residents still support. Residents are very grateful because, like I said earlier, transportation is an issue for a lot of folks. So folks are used to carpooling. Like they're used to carpooling to go get water from healing springs. So folks can't carpool as much because of COVID. So more people are walking to stores and patronizing stores more than they were before. Most of our business owners have gotten very creative in meeting CDC guidelines with making sure that folks have access to a mask, even if they don't have when they come in, and being able to make sure that they watch the number of folks that come in. So we're very fortunate that the business hasn't skipped a beat here.
And quickly about housing, what housing trends in Denmark have you identified as far as affordable housing?
I'm sorry?
Yeah, what housing trends in Denmark have you identified as far as affordable housing?
So we have several different apartment complexes that help with affordable housing. The problem is there's no space for new tenants because once folks are in there, they're in there. So when you have we don't have a whole lot of affordable housing here. I mean, it's cost effective to live in Denmark. Don't get me wrong. It's like the average rent medium here for folks for like a 2-bedroom apartment or a 2-bedroom house averages between $350 to $500 a month. So you rarely find anyone here paying any more than $800 a month on rent. If you tell somebody that you're paying $800, they're going to be like, that's a lot of money to pay for rent here. But you got to think about the conditions of those homes, the conditions of most of those properties. That's what's problematic. Being able to help with their energy bills because, they don't have the proper windows or the doors or the sealants to help reduce the cost of those energy bills. That's a problem too, because folks end up paying more in lights and water bill than they do for their rent. And sometimes folks have to decide, is it going to be my rent today or is it going to be my utilities and being torn or groceries? So definitely affordable housing is a definite need here. Affordable housing that provides, like with our economic development plan that we're working on right now, we're working on securing funding to bring in several new apartment complexes that will have solar powered power and solar powered water as well too.
What plan do you have to really rezone single family neighborhoods?
I'm currently in the process of developing that plan.
Okay. Deanna Miller-Berry, thank you so much for your time. And again, welcome to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thank you so much, Quintin. It was a pleasure to speak with you today.
Likewise.